What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of the Narik Chase channel. This is your boy Narik Chase, and I'm coming at you with Batwoman. Now, Batwoman is probably the most recent CW superhero show, and it follows Kate Kane, who is Bruce Wayne's cousin. Her ex-girlfriend gets captured by a new villain called Alice. Batman's pretty much been on a 5-year hiatus. The show has been saying that Batman is just generally gone, and the criminals are just
wreaking havoc, doing some wild shit.
Batman's absence. The Crows have stepped up as this private security company that takes care of Gotham. This is not really a good show.
What?
There is a lot that this show does wrong. It comes off as missed opportunities. A lot of SJW stuff that's being pushed. It could have been a really good take on the Batman mythos had it been done correctly. Birds of Prey. That was a missed opportunity. But I will say the most standout performance, of course, is Rachel Skarsten as Alice. She's like a really over the top, like screwed up version of Alice from Alice in Wonderland. It's a really good, interesting story behind the character and how she develops into this villain, as well as big motivating factors that help push her actions. Just hands down the best performance. I'm not going to go hard on Ruby Rose. Ruby Rose isn't the most talented actress when it comes to range of emotions. Most of the characters that she typically plays aren't really emotionally in-depth characters. Probably the best performance I've seen of her is when she played Ares in John Wick 2. Ares is probably one of my favorite characters from the John Wick series. I will say a lot of it does have to do with the writings. I don't really know too much about Batwoman, and the only incarnation of the character that I've seen that I actually thought was fairly decent was the Bad Blood. The look of Batwoman I can get behind as well. I think the look of the character is spot on. There are some good fights here in the series, some decent action. They are far and few in between, but when they're there, they're actually pretty decent. This show does have a lot of really interesting stories. They do set up a lot of potentially interesting characters, and they do revisit some characters from the Batman mythos, which is actually pretty good. But unfortunately, they do kind of squander those moments as well. Those ideas, the execution of the ideas isn't presented good. The villain of the week formula does not help the show at all. The writing and direction are just freaking awful. There is nothing good about the writing when it comes to dialogue. It has that cheesy Black Scorpion early 2000, late 1990s. Comes off as trying to be hip and smart, but it really does come off feeling more contrived.
The suit is literal perfection.
It will be. When it fits a woman.
Again, the villain of the week would have benefited from having more screen time and a better developed story arcs. A lot of these villains were spread over several episodes while Batwoman is trying to figure out who they are and why they're doing the things they're doing and how to stop them. That would have worked a lot better as far as the detective aspect. The SJW stuff is just through the freaking roof. I thought Supergirl was bad with it because I still kind of like Supergirl, but the feministic views that they have on the show are just over the top. It is a challenge to have a female-led superhero movie where it's action and fighting, and especially when you have Batwoman, who's pretty much standing in the shadow of Batman in nearly every aspect. You want this character to stand out, even though you're trying to push her as a character in front to make it seem like she's better. The problem is you make the show seem stupid because everybody else are just freaking idiots.
Jesus Christ!
The fight going on, she whoops people a little bit too easily, even though they're bigger. And I'm not against a woman beating up people. I mean, I'm behind, Black Widow when she's in her fight scenes, but they're a little bit more believable because of the different techniques. It ain't her just pretty much just punching the guy in the face, because Ruby Rose isn't a big woman. She's like 95 pounds. And even though she does look good in the Batwoman outfit, and it does suit her, actually benefited more after the fights were a little bit more extensive, a little bit more brutal. I mean, take this fight scene from Batman versus Superman where Batman is in his warehouse just whooping these guys' ass, but they're actually giving him a challenge. You know, they're actually able to land blows on him as well, and he's having to not only just use his physical prowess to take them out, you know, he's actually using his equipment as well. Like, I would like to see more interesting fights like that. Gotham does not feel like Gotham. There's nothing interesting about the landscape itself. No really iconic places. Really, the only most iconic place that you actually really see in the show is pretty much Arkham. But again, yes, you don't really get the sense that this is actually Gotham. Batwoman, the Batwoman character herself is just god awful. And I'm not one of those guys that's like, okay, she's taking up the Batman mantle, so she has to believe and act in the same way that Batman does, you know, the no killing policy, you know, how he thinks when it comes to the life, you know, weighing lives and making decisions and stuff. I don't need her to actually adhere to that same mindset. I do, however, want her to be deep and complex, and I do want her to have a strong sense of morality. And I feel like in the show she doesn't. She comes off as a big hypocrite. She does things that doesn't make sense. She constantly does things that put people in danger. She's reckless, stupid, stubborn in the worst possible way. This is not a knock to Ruby Rose. I still think that she's not a good cast for the role, but I'm not saying she's terrible either. It's just the way the character was actually written. Okay, Kate Kane, Batwoman, is gay, and the show just shoves it in your face and shoves it down your throat and will not stop. That should have been the last thing that this show should have really been concerned about. It shouldn't have been concerned about having a female hero. It should have been concerned with telling a very good, deep, edgy seat, interesting story. And that's where the show just completely flops. Trying to set her up to just be this victim. The whole aspect of the character really isn't really interesting. Even when you go into the show really doesn't dive into her character, especially with a lot of the events that have happened to her in her past that have shaped who she is. Supporting characters really aren't as interesting as they could be. Again, Alice is by far the best character.
About time too, Alice.
Luke Fox, who is Lucius Fox's son, he's actually a good character. Unfortunately, he's taking the CW route in terms of character, so he's just pretty much on the side. And Kate just shows him up, and all of the female characters show him up on every single side. Even though he is a really good character, he has a really good story in the series that involves the death of his father. It's one of the underlining stories that actually manages to survive being in more than one episode. So it was done really good. I wish they could have did a little bit more, especially had, you know, maybe perhaps flashbacks to actually show the relationship between him and his father. There's also the character of Mary, Mary is actually a good character and probably one of the most grounded characters in the series, but unfortunately the series does tend to treat her like crap. But I think that if they would have went the Gotham route, more stories involving other characters within the city outside of their circle. You have Bruce storyline, you have the Penguin storyline, you have the Riddler storyline, you have Gordon's storyline, you have the whichever villain that is the villain of that season storyline. Do tend to put down the male characters, specifically Batman. Batwoman is a bad show. Is it the worst show? No, it has some cheese to it. Yes, there's a ton of plot holes that don't make sense. Yes, characters are really inconsistent and poorly written. Yes, they tend to rush a lot of the storylines that's in the show. Again, the direction and writing are just really, really bad. There are some good scenes. Rachel Skarsten steals the show pretty much every single time with performance. Supporting cast do a decent job. Normally I come up with a top 10 list by now, but I couldn't even come up with a top 5 list. It's not bad, so I probably wouldn't watch it again. Batwoman deserves a 2 out of 5. It probably would have been lower had there not been some entertainment to it. Renewed for a second season, but Ruby Rose isn't going to renew, step back into the role of Batwoman for a variety of reasons. And I'm not hating the woman. If she had a bit more experience with more emotionally developed characters and acting, I think she could have actually pulled the role. And plus, I think if the writing would have did her justice, it would have helped her as well. But all right, guys, in the comment section below, let me know, what are your thoughts about Batwoman? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you agree with any of my points, both good and bad? Be sure to hit that like, share, subscribe, and that notification button to get the best of what we got going on the channel. And we'll definitely catch you guys later.
The suit is literal perfection.
It will be when it fits a woman.